so now I'm going to show you how to put them together, and I'm also going to show you understitching. That was one of the techniques that you did in your folder. So this is the lining piece that we just finished sewing. And you pressed open your seams, and then you'll have to go back to the iron and you're going to press up 1/4 inch on the bottom there. And that'll make more sense later on when we start putting it together, because you're going to hand sew the lining to the top of the skirt to finish off the inside, kind of like how we did with the collar on the fleece jacket. Okay, so you're going to match your edges. So match your edges and pin those down. And then match your seams. Here. All right. Okay, so this is what we're going to do is we're going to stitch our 1/4 inch seam on the top. Yeah, so actually on the edge and then the top. So I'm going to start down here, right where the fold is. Put the needle down in the fabric and then reposition yourself. So now on the lining, so on your lining piece, and how you can tell the lining is the one that has the pressed up edge. What you're going to do is open this up. The seam that this seam allowance that you just pressed is going to get pressed towards the lining. And so this is my lining. The seam is going towards the cut edge or the folded edge here. And we're going to understitch that. And it's kind of hard to get to exactly to the end there because you've got a right angle there, but just go as far as you can go without catching fabric that you're not wanting to sew. You don't want to catch this short edge right here. So I'm probably only going to be able to get started about right there. That little bit is not going to get understitched, and that's okay. And the reason why we're understitching this top edge here is to keep that seam to lay flat. It'll make the seam at the top lay flat. So I'm positioning and I'm fixing it so there's no puckers or anything like that. There we go. All right, so as you can see, let's see, let me reposition this a little better. Hopefully you can see. Let me bring this down just a little bit. Hopefully that's better. Okay, so it's positioned. This is the outer part of the bodice. This is the lining. I'm stitching. Here's my seam here. And I've put the seam on the inside part of the U of the foot. It's, let's see, try to get this a better angle here. So it's going to be, the seam is right here on this inside part here. And you want to stitch kind of close to the edge with the seam going towards this way. Back tack a couple of stitches. And just go slow, and you're going to have to reposition this because you don't want to have any puckers. And just keep moving the fabric out of the way. The seam is right here. That's my seam. And I'm pulling this a little bit too, so none of that top seam doesn't get tucked under. Okay, so I'm getting close to that right angle there. So I'm going to go as far as I can go. And then I'll stop and back tack. Okay, that's about as far as I can go. All right, so then I'll show you what that looks like. All right, so this is the lining. There's my understitching. There's the seam underneath. And this is the top part. So now what I'm going to do, you can try and see if you can understitch this part too. So here's the lining. The seam goes into the lining. I'm going to try doing that and see what I can do. Same thing, I'm going to position it. The seam is right on the inside of this part of the foot now. And I'll go as far as I can go. That's about it. Okay. So see how it, with understitching, it just lays that down, and I'll show you the other one. It won't lay as nice. See, it's still kind of puckery there. So, but this one on this side wants to lay nice and flat and give you a nice crisp edge there. So I'm going to go ahead and do that other side, and then when I'm done, I'm going to go to the iron and I'm going to press this edge here. And then when I'm done pressing it, then I'm going to go ahead and pin it onto the dress form and do one final fitting to make sure everything still matches pretty nicely.